Hello there, and welcome to Corey's Datapad for another review of The Mandalorian Season 2. We are talking about Chapter 10 today. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about non-spoilery stuff, give a general overview of the episode or my thoughts on the episode, and then after that we'll get into a bit more detail and some actual spoilers. So I'll give you guys a warning before we go into the spoiler section. So while I wouldn't say that this episode is quite as strong as the last episode, I'm still really enjoying the season. I think a lot of people will end up kind of incorrectly categorizing this as a filler episode. We get a good amount of character growth from the Mandalorian, or not necessarily growth, but showing how he has grown in a couple relatively important moments. Like last episode, this is a bit longer than what we got in season 2, or season 1 rather, but I think it is more in that range. It's about 37 episodes of actual, or 37 minutes of actual runtime, not 37 episodes. And the show manages to do something that I think it does really well over both the first season and the first 2 episodes of this season, where they're able to get across a lot of character information without relying too much on dialogue. Again, I don't want to go into too many spoilers in this section, but I guess if you're watching the video, then you're going to get some sort of vague information. We're continuing to see some of the stuff that we saw a bit more of in the first episode as well, where some of the techniques for shooting the show and some of the different shot styles that they've used in the first episode of the season are still continuing on. Like, we're getting a lot more wide shots, especially during action sequences. But yeah, so I do recommend still going and watching the episode. I'm going to get into more spoilery territory right now, so if you haven't seen the episode yet, you can probably drop off and I will stop rambling so everyone is gone, right? Alright, so getting into the actual meat of the episode, we start off on Tatooine, obviously right where the last episode left off. The Mandalorian's heading back from Mos Pelgos, and we have an ambush right away. We don't actually get a Boba Fett ambush, which I thought we might get before he left the planet, maybe some more with Boba, but we don't get any more Boba in this episode. So he's probably going to be coming up over the next couple episodes or over the course of the season, and I assume Cobb Vanth would have something to do with the rest of the season, though we do leave him kind of how we did in season 1 with some of the episode characters who would later come in and play a bigger part, like Kara and Greef. The ambush ultimately doesn't result in much. It does lose Amy Sedaris her speeder bike, which she doesn't mention, but she gets the Krayt Dragon meat, so it's probably a fair trade there at the least. In the fight that ensues from this ambush, we do see a lot of actual concern from the Mandalorian over the child, and well, we've come to expect a certain level of concern from him. You can actually see it reflect in his actions and his voice when he's trying to bargain with the scavenger or bounty hunter, because whoever they are, I assume they're bounty hunters because they were aware of the child, unless they're just saying the child in reaction to seeing them. So it seems like we are still dealing with the Mandalorian and the child being hunted. We do get a lot more of the child in this episode than we did in the last one. In the last episode, we got a few shots of him just kind of being around and being cute, but in this, he's involved in a lot more of the, I'll call them plot moments. There's not a huge amount of heavy plot stuff going on. Din is involved in delivering a passenger who has some information potentially on where Mandalorians are, but she needs to get back, and crucially, she can't go through hyperspace with her eggs. And this is something that they kind of do in the original trilogy, going over a long distance in sublight, and I don't love that when it happens, but it is still a callback kind of to the original trilogy, especially in this area, and so it doesn't bother me too much. But on the way to this planet, the Mandalorian gets stopped by a New Republic patrol in a regular traffic stop, and they ask for identification. Ultimately, the Mandalorian tries to run, and he crash lands on a planet that is basically a ball of ice. And on this planet, the child finds some eggs, which I initially thought were actually Kinrath eggs after all the references to KOTOR in the last episode, and then the creatures actually look like Kinrath as well, but I think they're actually the Krykna from the Rebels episodes on Chopper Base on Autolon. So I'm pretty sure that's what they are, but I was really hoping for Kinrath. But after being told not to eat their reptilian passengers' eggs, the child decides instead that he would like to eat the Krykna eggs. And so he starts doing that and wakes them all up, so they end up having to run back to the Razor's Crest, which has a large breach in its hull. And the episode ends with the New Republic pilots that were chasing the Mandalorian earlier, clearing off the Kinrath that the Mandalorian was unable to kill, and just abandoning them there, after telling him that, well, he is wanted, he has some other stuff on his record that reflects positively on him within the New Republic. So, while they're not willing to help him get off the planet, they were willing to just leave him there and not bother him on this run. So we can probably assume there's going to be some run-ins with the New Republic in the future, but without going super long on this, just again, I tend to prefer the episodes that have a few more characters in them. There wasn't much for interaction between the Mandalorian and other characters other than the reptilian passenger who, aside from one quick scene, he wasn't able to talk to, and obviously the child who he speaks to but doesn't really get a response from. Either way, normally we'd have some sort of discussion in more depth on Tapcaf transmissions about this, but Eckhart's Ladder is away currently, so he and I will probably go through the episodes that we miss all at once in a couple of weeks. But for now, hope you guys are enjoying the season, hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to hear more thoughts on The Mandalorian, let me know in the comments, and stay tuned for next week. Thanks again, hope to see you next time.